Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Hi. And you're probably ready to hear what's going on with the status of two different wildfires, two different mountains, Mowbray, Signal. I've been getting a lot of social media concerns about who is evacuating, about other homes potentially in imminent danger. Our reporter, David Cobb, who I'm trying to get a hold of right now, is out, and our photographers have been out covering this. There's certainly a lot of images to see, but we really need to know what people need to be concerned about.
Yeah, so this evacuation isn't for everybody in the Chattanooga area. Certainly, if you can see, there's quite a bit of smoke out there. I'm looking out the window right now, and it's a little smoggy. You can smell it when you go out. But they're only evacuating a few neighborhoods at this point that are they believe to be in danger. Officials are going door to door. Currently, it's residents of Arnett Drive and Benelia Circle on Mowbray Mountain. They're being advised to evacuate their homes as forestry officials are battling a nearby wildfire.
Calling right now.
So she's going to talk to David Cobb. There is a shelter for those people over at Mowbray Presbyterian Church, and we've got Tri-State Mutual Aid fire crews are on the scene. What they're trying to do is they're using a continuous water supply from a tanker shuttle to wet down the area and try to protect those homes. While this is going on, of course, we put out some news earlier that FEMA is going to be supporting the efforts to fight these fires. That's the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They're specifically worried about the wildfire in the Flipper Bend area of Walden's Ridge. That's sort of connected to Signal Mountain, and that is also threatening homes and causing evacuations. Those evacuations were announced yesterday, and they're continuing today. So they'll be FEMA will be reimbursing 75% of the costs of the fire, which has burned more than 800 acres at this point, and it's still going. Currently, last night is when they requested the grant at that time, and the fire continues to burn today, so I'm just giving you the most updated information we have. But as of last night, there were 45 threatened homes in the Flipper Bend, Walden's Ridge area. So there were mandatory evacuations in place for 15 to 20 homes, and they are expecting to increase those evacuations in that area. So if you're in the Walden's Ridge area, that's something where you might have to evacuate. These wildfires have been going on for some time. Basically, we haven't had any rain, and there's no rain expected in the forecast. So the rain does a couple of things. It's extremely dry right now. The rain obviously changes that, and it doesn't need to be a little bit of rain. We need a soaking, long rain. So a little sprinkle, you might think, oh, good, it's over. Not so. It's gonna continue to be very dry. That water that sprinkles won't even penetrate into the lower layers of accumulated leaves, debris, roots, and things like that. And so you really need a soaking rain to get in there, because even when there's no fire on the surface, sometimes it continues to burn underneath. So they're doing a couple of things, the crews out there, and they've also pulled in, so it started out with just local fire officials. They've pulled in Tennessee National Guard at this point. They've also got some crews from Nevada, the Bureau of Land Management, and those are federal wildfire guys, so they're used to fighting fires that are 500,000 acres that cross, California, Nevada, whatever, multiple states. So we've got some guys from out west that are helping us out as well. So there are efforts to basically, they don't put the fires out because you can't get enough water out there. They've got helicopters dropping water in certain areas trying to cool it down. But what they're really trying to do is dig essentially big ditches so that the fire will be stopped, so it will not cross a certain boundary. And they try to dig those ditches and essentially build a barrier. Fire depends on a couple of things. It needs heat, it needs oxygen, and it needs fuel. So if you take away any one of those three things, then you don't have a fire anymore. So they're attempting to take away the fuel. But again, these are very mountainous areas. They're very steep slopes, so it's really difficult for the crews. A lot of times they're doing this by hand with rakes and shovels and things like that, because they can't get a bulldozer up on the side of these mountains.
Okay, I just got off the phone with our reporter, David Cobb. He arrived to Mowbray, where a subdivision of some trailer homes and some foundation homes, the fire, he said, approached that area. At that point, the sheriff recommended that the homeowners evacuate. And he said what's going on, though, is a lot of these homeowners are fed up and they're sick of this affecting their lives. And because
it's been smoke and fiery for days.
Right. And they're saying, we have our cars packed, And even though sheriff's saying, you guys need to evacuate, they're like, no, we're going to wait.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of an issue. And I asked him, because I don't know in a situation like this, I haven't really covered as a reporter, if a sheriff's saying evacuate and the people aren't evacuating and they're just kind of like on standby. He said they were going back between their homes and their cars, with their cars, most of them packed. So can the sheriff force people to evacuate? I mean, if
Generally
they
not.
feel like there's a danger to people's lives, I don't know. So he was going to ask that question.
I mean, I'm sure if they declared martial law or something like
Right.
that, I'm sure they get extraordinary powers. But generally, if you haven't committed a crime, people, the sheriff can't force you to
If your life
leave.
is in danger.
Yeah, I mean, they can really strongly recommend it.
Right, so
but-
that is what the sheriff is recommending. This is a place called Arnat Drive, Arnat, and we'll continue to update you with that.
And
Again,
Vanilla Circle is the other one
Okay.
as well, on Mowbray Mountain.
what he's trying to do right now, David Cobb, our reporter, is trying to find the hot spot on Mowbray Mountain where it isn't contained, and then also see the areas that are contained and talk to officials there. And like he already told us, he ran into some people who are just sick of this. They're sick
Yeah.
of dealing with this. It's affecting their lives. There is a Red Cross shelter set up at Mowbray Presbyterian. And as far as Signal goes, he is going to head there after he gets a grasp of the whole situation.
So these are
on
separate
Mowbray.
places. You've
Yes.
got, and we have, there's a map, and I'll make sure, I don't know if we have it in our latest story, but we had it, I think, about 3 or 4 stories ago. We've been covering this for a while. And it shows, it's from the Tennessee Department of Forestry. And you can look, and these are just 2 fires among dozens of fires, separate fires that are burning throughout our region. Again, no rain, and
The rain is the problem.
they're
I mean,
expecting it to, essentially, they're saying it's going to get worse before it gets better. I mean, they haven't said it. They say it in a very official way.
right,
But
and they're
these
saying
fires
not
aren't
a
gonna
little
stop.
bit of rain's not going to help.
Yeah,
It'd
it
have
needs to be a
be
soaking rain.
several inches of rain. We talked to Shannon Gann, who's been super helpful to take the time to inform
Yeah,
us
she's
and
been great.
inform you with the Tennessee Division of Forestry. We'll check in with her as well, and I know our reporter, like I mentioned, David Cobb, will continue to update you about this situation. And for all of you who've been messaging me, private messaging me, I'm sorry I can't respond to all of you, but people are very concerned, and we're concerned for you, and we're trying to get these details in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, some people, I mean, you may be wondering, okay, we have however many hundreds of people out there, professional firefighters trying to fight this fire. So how do they keep expanding? How are we not putting these fires down? Well, there's a couple factors. One is, I described, while Lesley was on the phone, I described they're digging fire breaks. So they get bulldozers, they dig essentially a giant ditch. It just digs everything up down to the rocks, so that it can't even burn the roots and things that are there.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is this fire is so hot, and the wind starts to pick up, and we've had the fire in a couple of cases
And it
actually jump
shifts.
over the fire break. So they're trying to dig this big wide ditch so the fire they can deprive it of fuel.
Or they're preparing
And-
for one direction, and then
Yeah.
Mother Nature
Or the
steps
wind
in and
shifts.
shifts to.
So it's been difficult for them. The other thing, as we described, a lot of these steep hills, you can only do so much. So what they're trying to do, in many cases, we've been to several of these fires now where it's in the early stages, and they're trying to protect the tops, because that's where the homes are, the tops of these mountains, and then they're trying to protect the bottoms. But they're letting it kind of burn sideways, and then they're digging fire breaks on the side. Well ahead of it to try to eventually put a stop to it there. I think the problem is when it starts to crest that ridge, and where the people build their homes along the brows of these mountains, that's when you get into a position where there could be some danger, obviously enough danger where they feel like it's important to do mandatory evacuations.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and again, they've been pumping water out of the lake to try to protect these homes, about 18,000 gallons, according to the story we had today.
Okay.
And there's also, we've got, I think, video. These helicopters, we've brought in military Black Hawk helicopters with buckets, and they're dipping into the lake, and they're sort of using a tactical approach to that, and dumping the water where the fire is hottest, just to try to tamp it down a little bit.
So the best thing to do is to continue just to keep checking the website.
Yeah.
If you're concerned about an
We'll have
area
updates.
that you're living in, or somebody you're friends with or family with. But I do appreciate you should see how many private messages I have about Signal Mountain, where I know a lot of friends and family up there. But I don't know anybody up there who has had to evacuate, but I know that there are areas they're recommending
At this point,
to.
yeah, it's dozens of homes.
Okay.
And fire officials say they've never seen anything like this before.
In this area.
Yeah, in this area.
They do have a lot of resources, as I'm sure you've talked about, from out of state.
Brought into Nevada Bureau of Land Management.
Right.
And so federal officials, both, specific people on the ground, as well as federal funding now from FEMA, and I'm sure FEMA can contribute other resources and expertise as well to help contain these things. But it's just complicating this issue, frankly, is as they are putting out fires and getting them under control, new fires are starting. So even that's why you keep hearing about, this fire's contained, that's fire's contained, and I know it's hard to keep track of them all. It's hard for us too.
And it's hard for us to hear these are contained, but you're asking people to evacuate.
Yeah.
So that seems,
and they keep growing. They're contained,
concerning.
but they're growing. So it's kind of we try to.
We're definitely not working, as fire officials. So it just, as reporters or as you homeowners, it sounds. What do you mean they're contained, but people are being asked to evacuate?
Maybe we have different definitions of that word. But you also have people setting, maybe unintentionally, maybe intentionally, we don't know, but you have new fires being set. So, I think it's important to continue to emphasize, don't have a campfire.
That's what all the fire officials are saying. Don't throw a cigarette, don't have a campfire.
It's actually illegal in most of our national parks at this point. They've gone ahead and put a blanket burn ban out for all of our state parks, national parks, which we're surrounded by because it's gotten so bad. Yeah. And just to be on the safe side, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do a fire. Even if you think it's contained, again, those sparks, when it's this dry, all it takes is one spark. Now, on a normal fall, if it's been raining, they love for you to have fires. Go out there and enjoy yourself. But this is not normal. We haven't had any rain, and so you basically have kindling. That's the entire forest. It's dry and it's crackly, and it's all it needs is one spark and a little bit of air, and you've got another fire going, which could threaten somebody's home. You don't want to be responsible for that. And then there's the issue that you said of flicking your cigarette out the window as you're going down the highway. All of that can have consequences. So just be normally
mindful.
Not a big deal, but this time of year, and especially right now, it's a huge deal, and it's happening. Those cigarettes, those campfires, they are starting new blazes.
And as a reporter, it's so devastating to see the effects of what a fire can do to someone's home or to their life or their family. I've seen some horrible things as a reporter, especially in house fires more than these kind of wildfires. But when you have experienced stuff like that, you realize the gravity of the situation, and you want to make sure everyone is safe. So that's what we're trying to do, updating you, and best thing to do is just continue to check that website.
We've got pretty exhaustive information. There's 55 active wildfires in Tennessee alone right now that we're trying to keep an eye on, and then countless others in Georgia that we're watching. Air quality obviously has been an issue with all the smoke. Poor Lesley had to, she could barely see.
Poor me.
And now that air quality has gone back to moderate as of yesterday, but again,
my eyes are still red.
You probably just want to be careful if you have asthma or something like that.
Yeah, and the schools are watching it too. Downtown a couple days ago, there was some advisory for schools around here if they felt like the smoke was too much of an air quality issue. They were talking to parents about that. So we'll continue to update you on anything like that as well. And
but the big two continue to be Mowbray Mountain, where you've got evacuations going on. The Walden's Ridge area,
which is far up on
up
Signal.
North. Yeah. Up north on near Saudi Daisy, so just south of Saudi Daisy, really.
And David, our reporter, again, I want to thank him for taking the time to call me as he's talking to these homeowners on Mowbray who are not happy, and as a reporter, that's never fun. So he's going to get a hold of everything going on there, official-wise, and then he's going to head on to Signal, and then we'll have
updates from him throughout the day, so stay tuned.
Okay. Bye, guys. Stay safe.